Dallas. All the reflections. I feel like I've packaged up Dallas, put it behind me, and put it in a little box. Dallas, on reflection, because post-race I was quite disappointed, but on reflection and having gone back to what were my pre-race goals of like what realistically I wanted to get out of it, actually Dallas was kind of really good. I had a really good swim. I tried a couple of things on the bike that I now know probably trying to do the first lap at threshold in the heat is not a good idea. Tick, done. Don't need to do that in Kona. And I think given the training I'd done, obviously had a couple of rest days, felt really good and fresh for the race, but I'd still done like 40 hours training in 10 days before it. That's a lot in the heat. So yeah, I think given the fact I was then able to run like reasonably, like kind of Ironman pace, I'll take that as a kind of win. And other reflections of I got a paycheck, quite a good paycheck, which should cover pretty much all of my Kona trip. So yeah, generally got out of it what I wanted. It obviously wasn't the race that if I was like fresh and had done specific training for it that I'd hope I'd be able to deliver, but I think the level of competition now, especially at that kind of distance, is so high that if you're not kind of using that as one of your key races, like you can't really expect that you're going to have a great race. So yeah, overall, having reflected and gotten over my disappointment, actually really happy, and I think it sort of bodes really well for Kona. Obviously still more to work on, and I think for next year those like 100k races are definitely something I'd like to be a bit more competitive at, which yeah, as my swim hopefully gets better and better and brings me out with like closer to the main group, that should be easier to do. Overall as an experience, really cool. Like the PTO did a great job of making it, like making us feel quite special. There was obviously like some of the media stuff around it. Definitely not a fan of starting late though. Like I like an early start. I kind of didn't really know what to do with myself all morning, but at least had like a decent night's sleep. But yeah, like lots of cool things of not having to wrap the day before, so you can just take your bike down. I think especially in the heat, that's actually quite good to be able to do that. Got down, had a little warm-up swim, that was all good, and then we had like a little tent where we could just chill before the race. And I think one of the other things that's so cool about these kind of races is just getting that interaction with people and like all of that kind of level of the women. So that's really cool. And for this race as well, because I was one of the top 10 ranked athletes, that I'd got to pick where I wanted to be on the pontoon. I basically just picked to be close to where all the other girls had picked, because then I was like, I'm in the middle, so I'll have like super speedy people here, and maybe I can kind of hang on and be somewhere. But also meant I had the whole experience of like kind of being called out and getting to sort of run down to the pontoon, which I've never had before, so that was really cool. Then on the start line, dive start, definitely not my forte, but again, like it is, obviously looks quite cool from a broadcast perspective, and it is like, it's just different and it is quite fun, so that was good. Dived in when the gun went. Had quite a good start. I was like basically Lisa Norden on one side, I think it was Jackie Herring on the other. They both went off quite hard and I was kind of behind them for a bit. And then as some of the other women came across, I kind of got knocked off a little bit, lost the feet a bit, and was then kind of on my own. And then there was like another main group that came across, and I managed to sort of stick with them for a little bit. And then I saw someone who I then found out was Molly that kind of went off the front of that group, and I was like, right, I'm gonna like really try and get on her because she can hopefully take me back up. Like I could see Kat's blue hat in the distance, so I was like, if I can stick on Molly's feet. So yeah, actually like very proud of myself for being able to like bridge back over. I've never been able to do that in a race, so that was pretty cool. And then we had a nice little group of Jackie, Kat, Molly and me. There's some slightly interesting sighting going on at times. We had like some not very straight swimming, but yeah, like then in that group that was comfortable, like good to get around. Then coming out of transition, like definitely that second loop of the swim felt really warm. Like I know the water was, I think, like over 28 degrees, like if you're actually trying to go quite hard, and at that time of day, I think, like if it had been in the morning, I think it would have felt cooler, but yeah. Anyway, so it was quite warm coming out the swim. Went out of transition, had a terrible T1, definitely need to practice. Like basically my elastic bands had come off my shoes, so they were like dragging. I was then like trying to get my feet in and struggling to get my feet in, and it took me a while. So I then lost Kat and Jackie for a little bit and kind of got distanced by about 50 metres. Like worked quite hard to get back in contention, and then Kat was obviously going quite hard because she was trying to make up time to the front group. So spent that first lap probably at threshold, thinking probably can't hold this, but kind of want to see if I can keep with Kat. Legs kind of fell off quite quickly, and I was like, right, I'll just knock it back to the kind of power I was hoping to hold. Managed that for about a lap, and then it very quickly, legs fell off and I just had nothing. Really to the point, like I couldn't even push Ironman power. I was trying to focus on like just keep aero, just keep trying to like pick people off a bit and see what you can do, but yeah, like really had nothing in the legs on the bike. That was like mentally really hard. I guess like when I'm used to the bike being my strength, actually when I then have a really shit bike, it is really hard to be like, have I just lost my legs? Is it, you know? So anyway, but like I know why it is. It's because I did shitloads of biking the week before, but mainly then trying to be like, just don't get lapped out by Taylor, because Taylor was coming round pretty quick, and I was like, I'm actually quite high at risk here of getting lapped out. So I was like, don't get lapped out. Managed to not get lapped out, just. And then came out onto the run, and obviously wasn't feeling great from not having had a good bike. But I was like, I know I'm not that far outside the top 20. Got to the first aid station, had a bit of a meltdown because I grabbed a cup to like pour over my head of water, and it was warm, and I just like I then saw Indy and Nathia who'd stopped. I basically just came off, stood, and I was like, oh, the cup's warm, like it's really hard, it's really hot. I was like not having a good time. And Indy was just like, just get through one lap and then we'll talk again. And I was like, okay, I can get through one lap. So went off. And actually then when I got going, I was like, oh, actually I kind of feel all right. So then I was like, let's just tick off a lap at a time, keep cool, keep getting all the water over my head and cold stuff. And actually like the cold towels and stuff were brilliant. And yeah, just was like, okay, just keep it at like Ironman pace and use it as a good training day, which is kind of what I got out of it. So yeah. Tough, really tough. Like it was really hot, and there's something about that kind of lapped, well, there's something about really flat course on the bike that I actually just don't like, but it was also like a very boring course. But from a like spectator point of view, from like being able to see people at certain points, obviously it was quite easy to jump across, so that was good. So yeah, overall really good day from a learning and training day. Hopefully some good learnings to take to Kona.